I'm going to start.
There you go.
Okay, we're
There
ready to
you
go.
go.
So now I will make Tom the host, and you can take it from there.
Okay,
Uh,
you are the host now. Okay, so now let me share my screen. All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So a couple of months ago, there was a discussion in this group about temporary work databases, and I thought to myself, oh, I've got an old solution I can share. So I dug it up, and it needed to be updated for 64-bit code because these days on my host computer, I'm using 64-bit. I do have the 32-bit version in a virtual machine, but I've since updated it, and I sent George a copy as a zip file, which I'll let him share. It has an MDB and an AccdB version in it. I've tested it in 2003 and Access 2003 and the current, whatever they're calling it these days. I don't know, Microsoft 365. I get so confused with all the name changes that are really not necessary, in my opinion. But anyways, so here it is. So this was born off of a sample code that Dirk Goldgar posted many years ago in the Access User Group. And the last time I checked, this link still worked. Let me just see if it does. I think it does. Look at that. So Pete Cresswell, and somewhere here we should see Dirk's solution. There, okay, there it is. And then later he gives his code somewhere in there. And I thought, you know, that's kind of a neat sample and I want to have it available. So watch what, when I close the form, there's only one table called employees, right? And you might recognize this as the Northwind employees table. When I open the form, notice that I get a linked table showing up. I can call it Tom stuff. It's an empty copy with the same exact structure as the employees table. Pretty cool. And if you hover over the link, you can see that it's in a file that has a file extension of .tmp. You can use, I think, whatever extension that you want. But so where might you need a temporary, well, first of all, why would you want a temporary database? And that could be to help prevent bloating in your front end. And then the why might be, you might have a complicated report that you want to run. So you're assembling data into your report. And then once you're done, then you base your report on that table. And then when the user closes everything, it all goes away. It hasn't bloated your front end as a result. So that might be a use case for it. The directions include, you know, kind of tell about it. Oh, okay, I see here, see messages number 11 and 20 that I put. I think I did this way back in 2005 or 2006. Well, he posted in 2006, so it's an old sample. But now to make it work, so he's got a class module in here that you might see. And in whatever form you want it to work in, you declare whatever variable name you want as new class work database. And then you can give it a name, like I named it Tom's stuff. Let's call it George's stuff. And you can base it on an existing table or query, which is kind of cool. And then you just use these directions. So Now, when I open it up, it creates George's stuff. So, which is, and then just to show you that you could base it on a query as well, I can create a new query, drag in employees, and I can just take, say, three fields, URY employees. I can run it to make sure it returns data. And I can go back in here and QRY. What did I name that? Was it EMP?
EMP. Yeah.
Linda's stuff.
Okay.
There's Linda's stuff. And it's an empty table with those three.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, one word of warning that I will leave with you when you use this code is Dirk is depending on, I'll show you, he's depending on break on unhandled errors working. A good thing to do, and I think I put a note in here somewhere about this. On LinkedIn. If you had this, and keep in mind, this is a VBA option. So if you distribute an application that's not in the AccdE or MDE format, and some other bozo is working on their Excel app and they select break on all errors and they distribute their app, that's how everyone that uses Office, theirs will then be break on all errors. And that will break this app. So the way to prevent this is really the only way that you can prevent it. See, he's kind of depending on this, is if you distribute as an MDE or an AccdE file, guess what? You can't break on all errors, and you can't break into a class module that's been removed from the application, because when you create an AccdE or an MDE, of course, it removes the code that you can see and edit and leaves only the P code. So you want to always make sure that you're on break on unhandled errors. And since you can't control the behavior of what some other person might do, and VBA is a shared environment, my recommendation is to have your code in an AccdE or MDE file. And then it'll work just fine. And this stuff.
Okay, I have a question. Remind me when at the end that I have a question about that, but I'm not gonna.
Go ahead.
Well, can you distribute this as a library, AccDE or MDE, and just reference it in the references in your production?
You might be able to. That's a good exercise for George to test out.
Yeah, that's what I was afraid you were going to say. Because I'm thinking if you don't want to distribute your application as a compiled version,
Mm-hmm.
then you run the risk. So maybe if you just put this into a library reference and distribute that, but then you're distributing an extra file.
I think George should present on that next month.
Well, I'm not sure next month is doable, but down the road, okay. Yeah.
So I don't know the answer, George.
Okay.
So
Maybe I'll
Never.
pawn that off on somebody, but that occurs to me as a way around that. Yeah.
You might, I would probably ask Jeff Conrad if you know his email, because his whole, do you remember his CSD tools?
Yeah, yeah.
That was a separate file that gets, he even makes it available as an add-in.
Yeah.
I wish that tool could get updated, but it's kind of been forgotten about. But I think I still use it. Let me see. Well, no, I can't use it for 64-bit.
Yeah,
I have tried.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that I would like to be able to use. Okay.
So,
So,
but anyways, that's about all I've got for
okay.
this.
So I will try to make that available on the Access User Group website. There's supposed to be a way to do that. I haven't actually tried yet, but if I can't do it there, I'll put it on my website.
The other thing I would warn is wherever you make the temporary folder. Now, I think I did it. Let me just check. I think I did it in I did it in the same folder. But you could do it in a subfolder. And yeah, sometimes it leaves behind a trace. It should clean up after itself. It doesn't always.
Yeah, that was another question.
What I've done in the past is made a subdirectory, like say, for example, temp.
Yeah.
And then in the code, I've gone to the temp file. And the first thing I do when I open up the app is I delete all files in the temp, this temp folder.
Yeah. So you clean up on startup rather.
Yeah. And that way, the worst that would ever be there is one file.
Yeah.
So, and it should be pretty easy to, where is it? To just tell it the temp file. Okay, there we go. Current DB project. Okay. You can also use %app data. The one thing I would warn is if you're going to use C:temp, keep in mind that when Windows makes a folder, whoever makes it becomes the owner of the folder. So if that's a shared workstation, someone else coming along running your app, they wouldn't have rights to read that folder. So, but I believe that that's the only change I need to make to, and we could do something else here, like George, what's your initials?
GRH.
RH?
Yes.
Okay. So, for example, now if I go startup, if I hover over, you can see that the name of the file is grh and then some stuff .tmp.
Okay.
And if we come into here, there's my temp folder. And that is just an AccDB file. I mean, if you wanted, you could copy it, right, paste. Oh, it's in use. Let me see if normally it should delete the file, but it doesn't. I've noticed it. Well, that time it did.
Yeah.
But if it hangs around, you can change the file extension back to AccDB or to MDB, whichever is appropriate.
Does it overwrite if you?
No, because it makes randomized names. And that's why one time I had implemented this at work. And then one time I noticed I had like a dozen temporary files in this temp folder. And it's like, oh boy, I better do something. So I started issuing a kill statement when I first came into the app to just clean out that folder.
Yeah, that's what I would probably do, is just on startup, just kill everything in there.
Now, could you modify his code to do that? Maybe so. Let's see. Okay, there it is. So it looks like we're calling some function called temp file. So probably you could eliminate the reference to temp file and you could just say, let's just give it a try. We will say string file name is equal to, I don't know, grh.
Current project path.
Yeah. Let's put it in the same folder. Whack. I'm just playing, I don't know. And well, actually, let's do it this way.
Sure.
Okay. Let's see what happens.
I
So
approve.
yeah, I think the answer is yes, you can have a static file name. Let's just give it a try. Okay, it seems to have worked. There's Linda's stuff. And if we come here, we get George's the best.accdb.
And then you could kill that same file. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't have to.
Okay.
Or
Well,
you could just create it if it wasn't there.
it wasn't there. Yeah.
You could do a dir, and if not present, then create it. But I don't know, it's 6 1 half a dozen the other. If you have to possibly kill it before you come in, then why not just go with the temporary file name, kill star.temp, and
Yeah. And be done with it. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Well, that is fascinating. I think we could go on, but we probably should switch.
The biggest 2 warnings about this are probably, well, yeah, where you have your VBA air trapping set and you can't control that because VBA is a shared environment. So someone playing around in Word VBA or Excel VBA or whatever, they could change that on you for your users, and then all of a sudden your app is throwing an error. And the other thing is, on a shared computer, keep in mind that whoever creates the folder becomes the owner of it.
And yeah.
I use a similar kind of thing. I name it according to the front end plus -temp at the end of it.
Mhm.
And I've also got the ability to put more than one table into it and put any number of tables into it.
Yeah, this one you can put in more tables. I'm
So
pretty sure you can. Let me just give that a try. I'm pretty sure that we can do that. Linda's stuff. I might need to declare these somewhere. It's been a while since I've looked at this. Are these declared somewhere? No, it's not. Let's give it a try. I think it was employees, not employee. Conlink.
right.
I think that would do it. And then let me go back to the original. I'll just get rid of that. I've never had a need for more than one, but let's see what happens. So I don't know what'll happen.
No, they're both there.
Linda's stuff, George's stuff.
Good.
And they're both in the same file.
Yep.
I would suspect so.
Yeah.
Oops.
Flag it.
Oh, I closed the folder. I want path, I think. Okay, there we go. Copy. Windows Explorer. Paste. So, yeah, there's just one. It's GRH. And let me just hover over the links. And that one is GRH2 Frank 72.
Right.
Show me your tooltip. And that one is GRH2 Frank 72. So yeah, they're in the same database. Now, if I could get it to fail, isn't that funny when you want it to fail and it doesn't? What I'd like to do is, yeah, see there, it got rid of the evidence. But I can tell you that there's been times when it hasn't got rid of the temp folder. I don't think it seems like it balked at me. It didn't want me to. Yeah. How can I?
Okay, so I'm over here talking to myself and I forgot to unmute. We've gone about 25 minutes here, so let's put this on pause and switch over. I told you I do this all the time. I get caught up in the discussion and forget to watch the time. So if you can go ahead and make David the presenter next. I'm sorry, David, I lost track of time there. If you can just switch over to David, make him the presenter.
I think I have.
Okay, you are the host now, David, so you can share your screen.
Okay. Let me see.
And we're going to learn about Kanban.
You see my screen now?
Yes,
Yes.
we're seeing your screen. Great, thanks.
The slide deck of,
We're seeing the PowerPoint.
Now we're seeing
Okay,
this.
great. well, thank you, George and Access Pacific Group for allowing me to speak this afternoon or tonight, depending on where you are. I'm not that familiar with what Jack and Tom does with Access, but so I'll tell you up front, I'm not a pro coder. I don't code, and my claim to fame is to use graphics in an Access database in novel ways. And because of that, I presented last year at Access DevCon and again in October to this group. So I'm the odd man out in this audience. I just don't need to code, and so I don't focus in on it. I'm a proposal manager and capture manager, and so I do things that industry needs done with a database. So tonight I'm going to talk about Kanban boards, and these are simply a graphical way to look at a project. Okay, and they're very easy to build in Access the way that I do it. There might be ways to do it with code, but I do it in a manual fashion. So this slide kind of shows a little bit about me. Don't worry about what's in there. The important thing is Kanban boards 2016 down here. Okay. but I've done a lot of different things in my life. I retired from the government in '98, and that's about when I got started with Access. So a Kanban board is simply a panel, if you will, in my terms, where I use a main form and then 3 columns with subforms or subreports. And I'll try to explain why they're both forms, subform, and report, subreport here shortly. What I do is allow the Kanban boards to address the 5 W's. Everyone here is probably familiar with the 5 W's: who, what, when, why, how. And in project management or software development, with you working with a team, everyone needs to be on the same page. And so the Kanban board helps the program manager or the team lead keep track of all the tasks that have been assigned to people or need to be assigned to people on that project. Okay? Each column, and there are here 3 columns, has a Kanban card in it, okay? And this box here represents the main form. These boxes represent the subforms. Or once you get through the data entry stage, those become reports and subreports. And then the indexes are just a way to tell you which proposal you're working on if you're doing proposals. With Access, you have the ability to enhance your tools using text-to-speech. I suspect some of you have text-to-speech functionality in your applications. I've had text-to-speech for probably 7 or 8 years in mine. You can put infographics into your forms and reports. You can have animation in your forms and reports. And I use a lot of multi-value fields, which a lot of professional developers do not use. That saves the user time. And once all of those items are put into the MVFs, then the developer doesn't have to think about what needs to go into the module. And then I also use conditional formatting, and I'll show you all of those things here shortly. The best thing about using Access to build your Kanban boards is it requires no code or low code. Okay? I would say that you only need intermediate Access skills. Once again, I don't code, so I can easily say that. You need to have a good knowledge of the business that you're working for, and you need to have some graphic skills. I do all my graphics in PowerPoint, and then I just copy them into an Access database. So this is kind of busy. I'll try to go through, first of all, my tips so that you can come back and see what I think you need to do to create a good Kanban board. First is to use any data fields from your main table or from your queries in your Kanban boards. You want to eliminate as much clutter as possible. I'm at fault for making my forms and reports very detailed. And developers say, you need to clean that up. But I know my industry well enough that I can assume pretty well that my users will need all of that information. The next thing is call the headings whatever you want. Use any colors you want. Place fields in a logical manner or a logical order. Use appropriate justification, left, right, and center. I usually don't use any right justification, but I use left and center. Use conditional formatting wherever it helps the user to understand quickly what the data is telling her. And then place today's date on your reports so that you know what paper report, when it was created, and perhaps even who created that, so that there's a record of what was done during the project. And finally, don't be afraid to start over with a Kanban board the way that I build them. The next thing is, who uses Kanban boards? And proposals, we use them for writing assignments. We can use them for selecting personnel to put on a project, and for oral presentations. An unlimited number almost of ways that you can use Kanban boards in proposals, and same thing with just about any industry. There's many, many ways that you can use them. So once again, Kanban board, it has a simple construct, 3 columns, create them. The first column to the left is going to be to do items or tasks. The middle column usually has information about tasks in progress, assigned tasks, mitigated tasks, and so forth. And then the third one is the done or completed column. And the sources of data that are on my Kanbans are tables for the main form and the main report, and then the index pane. Queries, the queries are to populate subreports and subforms. And then there are calculated fields on these forms and reports that are just pulling data off the form themselves or off the report themselves and placing them in a specific place on the board. So I'm gonna skip over this one and probably this one as well. So these two slides I don't really need to do a lot with because I think I've talked to them pretty well at this point. The purpose of Kanbans is to improve the team's focus on the project. Okay. And what we do in proposals is to assign work to anywhere from 5 to 50 different people. Some people are going to be on time with their deliveries, and some of them are going to be late. So when you see a red flag, right, Linda? When you see a red flag, it means that that task is late. If you see a green flag or a square or rectangle, it means that the task has been done or completed on time. And we also will use Kanban boards to improve the predictability of success on a project. When I say a project in the sense of a proposal, I've worked on proposals valued at $20 billion down to $50,000. And when these projects or proposals are mission critical, then everything has to be done on time. It has to be done at a high quality level. Otherwise, you would have spent time and money working on a proposal and you lost the contract. So that's the goal of using Kanban boards. Here, every step in developing a proposal has the ability to use a Kanban board, from the draft proposal plan, round to proposal writing, to oral presentations. Each one of those steps, as I'm calling them, can use a star, that is to say, a Kanban board. So let's take a look at a few. At the top of a few of these slides, you see that same graphic that I showed you a couple slides back. Pre-RFP, RFP, post-RFP, award, and rebid. Those are the main stages in developing a proposal. The first column here is plan task, and the applications counts the number of tasks that are planned. It then counts the number of tasks that are in progress and the number that are completed or done. So we got 2, 2, and 6. I don't need to do anything except put that into the Access database. So we're going from left to right for this Kanban board. The next thing I want to point out is that each one of my Kanban boards for tonight's presentation is slightly different in its coloration. Okay, here I'm using salmon, light grays, and these boxes on top are just there to remind me what I need to say, okay? But when the headings here are these. This is for risk management. You've identified a risk, you've mitigated a risk, you've assessed the risk, and you've documented the risk. That's a standard PMI, Project Management Institute way of dealing with risk. You also see that each one of the cards, here's a card here, each one of the cards has the same items from the table in the same exact location. Okay? Here's another Kanban board, different colors, different kinds of information, depends on the underlying table. Here's one, slightly different colors, but what I'm going to show you the next 3 slides is the calculations that are done. One of the things that I want to know for each one of these phases is how much is in the budget for that task. The first one is resumes. I'm assigning a budget of $1,000 to preparing all the resumes that are going into this proposal. The second thing is attending bidders conferences. I'm assigning a value or a budget of $250. Those 2 values get rolled up into the overall budget for unassigned tasks automatically. The user doesn't have to do anything. In the middle column for assigned tasks, the budget is rolled up into a value here. And for the task on, the board on the right, the $905. Now, the next thing is I need to account for the number of pages assigned to each person. For resumes, I'm assigning 20 pages to that task. For bidders conference, 4 pages. Those values or numbers get rolled up to the overall board as 24, and then the middle pane here, there's 7 pages there and 8 on the right. Those get rolled up into a project description that needs 39 pages for this proposal. Okay? So what does a Kanban board look like in design view? This is a report in design view. What you see, the labels, everyone here is familiar with the labels in a report. Down in the middle, I indicate here that the tops of each sub-report is aligned to the same horizontal. Okay? So here's one. Well, you can't see my another one and another one. They're all top aligned. The bottom of each one of the sub-reports needs to be aligned as well. And then within some of these sub-reports, I have some misalignments, but you can see where they are because you're in design view. Okay, and then the green, yellow, and red, I forgot now exactly why I put that there, but those are my conditional formatting tools to help the user understand where she is. Okay, I'm gonna skip that for the time being. Data entry. In order to get all the data into a Kanban board, you need a form with all the appropriate fields for that Kanban board. For proposal writing, those fields include who is this assignment? Who is this writing assigned to? Is it completed, not assigned, or is it in progress? The due date, completed, the date the work was completed. Just simple, basic project information. So we go from the data entry form over to a Kanban board. In this case, this is a report with a heading for all of the information that's coming from your main or primary table, and then the Kanban board is shown at the bottom. Once again, different coloration, just because of the time period that I've created these screens over. Get other information that you may or may not use in leading a team here. This is the writing assignments, who the assignment was made for, when it's due, what is the requirement, the number of pages. All of that's coming from that main table, but it's using a query to get to this stage. Now we're at the post RFP stage, slightly different colors. Here's a risk mitigation plan. Everything depends on what you're trying to show, and it's all coming from the same table. Do you have any questions, Linda? Kent? Oh, yeah.
No, all seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just
So
trying to
it's-
absorb
it's-
all that information at once.
Huh?
Just trying to absorb all that.
There's a lot here. Like I said, it's very easy to create a Kanban board in Access using sub-reports and sub-forms.
Mhm.
And it's just a matter of selecting the fields in your main table and placing them into the sub-forms and sub-reports in the same place using a query. Here's another fairly complicated screenshot. This is one record, i.e. one proposal with all of the tasks on the left for the main form, or the main data set. And then these are individual tasks in the middle, and on the right is where you can see tasks assigned to individual people on your team, and actually here in gray too. So this first one, these are the tasks that are assigned to Scott Prince, These are the sign at the bottom that assigned to me. A lot of information on it to keep everyone on the same track. Here's another report in design view.
Okay, now it's
The
starting.
key with creating these sub-reports is to start with the one that has the most information first. And you can see an example of that here. The right one is about an inch, at least on an inch or two on my screen, wider than the two to the left of it. In order to simplify to the point where you see the left and the middle one, I just delete some of the data fields. I don't need to have a field for the first proposal manager review, second proposal manager review, third, until the task has been completed. So the point there is you start with the most detailed sub-form or sub-report, and you delete fields, text fields, any kind of object until you get back to what you really need. And this is a good example of using that. So what do we get for a query? I take the main table, and I just pull the fields into query design, and basically I'm done. In order to get the 3 sub reports, I need a field that represents the stage, that is plan, doing, and done. This is a data entry form that's a little bit more complicated, but what it does is use conditional formatting to say that that task has a high priority, moderate priority, or a low priority. And I will start with something very like this, very detailed once again, and remove for the second and third version of this Kanban fields that I don't need anymore. I start with most detail and remove things that are not necessary. So perhaps for Kent, I would show all the detail here. For Linda, half the detail here. For me, very little of it, because I might have enough knowledge of what's going on. So it depends on the person's role that is involved on your on a proposal as to how much detail you show him. How much time we got there, George?
Oh, sorry, I lost track again. Well, I think your time was pretty close to up. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, this is, I mentioned that's one of the things that happens, and I'm
yeah, well,
thinking of one question now. When you distribute the application, does everybody get a copy of the same one, or are you using a shared copy? Because the data has to be shared.
I haven't distributed this application to anyone except for a guy I used to work with. So I haven't gotten to that stage. The goal is to sell Proposal Centrals Plus as a complete application to small businesses where there's only 1, 2, perhaps 3 users of it. It's not designed for corporations because Access doesn't do cloud the way that we would like to see it do cloud. So it's for a small team. And these reports, that is to say, the Kanban reports would be converted to a PDF and emailed to people on the team.
Okay.
That's my vision of the use of PEP and the Kanban boards.
Okay, so you'd have one person managing the data
Yes.
input, and then
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and that person would PDF the report, send it to other team members, and that would be the life cycle, if you will, of a Kanban board. Now, Kanban boards need to be updated daily. Okay, and so you've got to have a good process to distribute these reports, because the
I have
data
some
changes daily.
Yeah, I have some thoughts on that, but this isn't the time to
Okay.
do that. But
And the one I've got this slide here, the middle is a graphic or infographic, and you'll see some version of that graphic in most of the forms and reports in my database. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's really interesting. I learned a lot, especially about how Kanbans actually work.
Yeah, I forgot to say, there are a number of commercial off-the-shelf and subscriptions application Kanban out there. Jira is one, Monday is another, and there's probably 10 or 20 of them. But what they can't do is allow the user or the developer to put in these calculations. Those COTS also don't allow the developer to brand the Kanban boards with your client's logo and colors.
So it's highly customizable then.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that doing this in Access is highly customizable. You can put, like I said, put your calculations in, your infographics in. You can change the width of a column to suit your purposes.
Yeah. So I'm thinking themes, but again, we probably should move on, because
Okay.
if you can go ahead now and click on Linda's picture and make her the host, and we'll switch over to her and let her finish up. I apologize. I do this, and I've apologized twice already, but I do this where I get caught up in the discussion and forget to keep my eye on the clock. And I'm even worse when it's myself. Okay, are we ready, Linda?
Yes.
Okay,
You got it?
you got it? Okay, David, you'll have to stop sharing for her to have
Oh, okay.
towards the,
There
okay,
we
now
are.
there you are.
There you go.
There it is. Okay, now we're seeing it. Okay.
Okay, got it. All right. So I'll start from the beginning for everybody who wasn't here before. I have a client who the accountant needs to see their data. And originally I was going to set up a computer at their office, and then he would remote in. But then I realized I could just give him a copy of the program, although by now it's been years and his copy doesn't look anything like the main copy, and I haven't bothered to keep up. And then every month, automatically send the data to him. I had asked the client if they would send the data to him, but my clients are spoiled. Do we have to? Can't you automate it? So I did. All right. So this is the application. All right. And only one of these computers has the ability to WinZip and send the data. We have very heavy duty passwords. Okay, so now when the database is closed, it goes to this routine. It checks to see if this is the computer that has that bat file. And if it does, it executes it. So let me show you the bat file. No. And this is the bat file. Okay. So what it does is it deletes the old version. It deletes the zip file version. It copies the actual database to something called Magnet Barry. The accountant's name is Barry. It then zips it into Magnet Data Barry Zip. And that's it, really. Okay. You do need to buy the full version of WinZip. I don't think you have to buy the super top version, you know, or the, but you have to, because otherwise you won't be able to get this, you know, I'll show you. I have it here, but it's actually, you know, you can't get this unless you actually own WinZip. Okay, now in order to get it to email, you go to Outlook, which must remain open. Now let's pick one, it doesn't matter who. Inbox, okay. And then this company, Sperry Rand, Sperry Software. For whatever crazy reason, I don't think it's ever worked. Also, what I've decided, originally what I did was I would send a text file to myself to make sure that it was running. But now I just send the whole darn database. It's just that easy. So now let's edit, you know, here, we'll edit this one. And when we send these files as attachments, yeah, let's choose an existing template. And you just have to create the template in Word. I think you can get open. Let's open it. Oh, forget it. Anyway, it's been a while, but you can create the message. And yeah, as a matter of fact, I think the software here. Okay, and then okay, attach file. I don't know. File, save as message. Yeah, you can save it as a message, right? Forget Word. You can just save it here. Okay, we're not going to save it. We already have it. No, I don't want to save my changes. And I set it up to do it twice a day. A couple of things. One, you don't have to zip the file if you don't want to. And you can make it happen every hour or every month or whenever you want. For example, Barry's is every month. Yeah, let's edit Barry's. And it repeats on a monthly basis. Okay. And it sends that file. And then we go to my, here, we'll close this so that they don't get too crazy in the morning. And then what happens is you get, on my side, they're a great company to work with. I mean, Sperry Software has been fabulous. The price is maybe, I don't know, $50, $40, something like that. I really think it's on an annual basis, but they haven't asked for payment for a while. And of course, I get the client to pay for it. I mean, yeah. Right. And WinZip, you don't have to keep buying it, you know, once is enough. And that's about $40 for the cheapest version. So, any questions?
Well, yeah, I have a couple. One, does it have to be a zipped file to send it?
No, absolutely not. I zipped it because it's, you know, it just seemed to make sense.
Yeah,
but
so theoretically, you wouldn't have to buy WinZip. if you were,
I have to buy one zip. In fact, what I did originally was I just sent myself a text message.
so.
Yeah, there is an issue though that
Yeah.
Outlook will block
Yeah,
certain
that would,
file types. So
yeah.
you'd have to
yeah,
have your users configure their system so that it wouldn't block
yeah,
your
that
message.
was where I was going next. In fact, beyond that, we've had the warning that they're going to block by default. What is, you know what I'm talking about? The new,
Doesn't do any of that. Doesn't cause any of that.
yeah, I'm just wondering if you're going to run into problems in the future.
It's been running for
Because-
years. And it did have a problem recently, and I just had to reinstall it.
So it's still,
Yeah.
so,
And you can do a lot of other stuff. For example, there are programs that will tell you whether Outlook is running or whether, and you don't have to have a zip file. And I could also, since they seem to be a little lazy about closing the database, although the accountant doesn't need the exact most recent one anyway, but there's code I have that I put in other systems where it closes the database if nobody's been using it for, I don't know, 10 minutes, half an hour, depending on your preference, which I could show you as well.
well,
Linda, let me understand. You're zipping the front end and sending that to the accountant,
I
and
think she's zipping the back end.
the back end.
the data, yeah. Yeah, the data is,
How big is the back end file?
Yeah, he unzips it to the same directory where the other one was, and it automatically is linked.
Ben asked how big the file is.
It's not that big. I don't know why I lost, let me go back and find, go to assist. I must have closed it.
Your screen's not refreshing, so I'm not sure what's going on.
No, that's all right. Let me get into, it's not that, I mean, it's, I don't know, 30 megs, something like that.
Okay.
That's pretty big to email.
Yeah, and without zipping
That's
it.
why he's zipping it.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
you know,
especially without
So-
zipping it, yeah.
I have some experience on this, and I'll just tell you what I've learned. There's a product called 7-Zip that's free. So you can use 7-Zip for free without registering it or paying for anything. It's all freeware. It will create zip files that are compatible with WinZip, but it also has its own 7-Zip format. And what I've learned with its own 7-Zip format is the 7-Zip files are 50% smaller than regular zip files on Access.
Wow, that is a lot.
a long time ago.
Yeah, 50% is a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's some advice. And then something else I do is because I get blocked by certain things, they don't like the zip extension. You know, you can try to rename the file to .bmp, but some of them are smarter than that. But what I'll do is I'll encrypt it. So I'll zip it and encrypt it with the 7-Zip encryption. And I always make the password something real simple, like 1, 2, 3, 4. And encrypted files go right through. They don't get blocked. I encrypt it and I tell it to segment the file. That's the other thing. If you had a 100 megabyte file and you zipped it, it still might be too big to email. So it'll make the file extension 001, 002. It'll make segments, and you tell it how big each segment can be. So you can say, hey, make them 10 megabytes because my email limit is 10 megabyte. But yeah, I'll segment it. I'll encrypt it. Every email system I found, it gets through, no matter what kind of blocking they have, unless they don't allow any kind of attachment. And I feel like if they complained about it, I would just say, hey, the password's 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm just trying to get client necessary information through the firewall.
Yeah.
I'm sure this could be improved. I mean, I did it a long, long time ago.
Yeah, yeah, you can probably find newer tools. I'm thinking when I was back in the day before I retired and have had a wonderful life without working, we did a nightly backup with SQL Express, which doesn't do its own backups. And we had a piece of freeware actually that would do that. And I'm wondering if you were to search now, if you'd find something
There it
free,
is.
a freeware version of what Sperry does.
There may be better ways of doing it.
No, I
but
don't know necessarily better, just, free versions that are adequate.
You can see this is, in fact, it just did it because it closed the database.
Yeah.
And this is how big it is, and this is how big it is zipped.
Yeah.
No question about it. I mean, you could do all sorts.
That's very reasonable to email that nowadays.
Yeah, a lot of places. do
Yeah.
that, Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, Linda. Like I say, there are probably things you could, I don't know if it's been, my theory though, is if it's been working for this long, why change?
Exactly.
Your $20 registration was well spent.
Well spent, yeah. But I think, like I say, I think there's probably other alternatives that
Of
if the
course
need
there
comes
are.
up, you might find. So we've gone well over our hour again. I appreciate that.
Sorry about it.
And I don't know if there's anything else you'd want to revisit in any of these presentations.
The close all the.
Back to Tom's with the side end, the data. I have some thoughts on all of these, but I don't necessarily want to keep you here.
Yes. Yeah, let me
Kent,
go.
do you have any thoughts, or Jack? Questions?
Let me just turn the I'm using Zoom. There it is. Zoom.
If you want to zip a
I don't know
file,
why I keep losing you.
you can use a zip a file using the Windows shell namespace object that's built into Windows.
Yeah. Yeah. Does that create files that are comparable in size, or are they?
Okay, I stopped sharing.
Okay.
Yeah, let me also say that if
No.
anyone wants a copy of my PowerPoint,
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to send it to George, and he can distribute,
No.
because you probably don't have my email address.
Okay. All right, Linda, I'll be happy to do that. First, I want to try to get control back. I want to be host. So great. So I will go ahead and stop the recording here in a second. I just want to thank everybody who participated.
Great.
It was a fun way to take a different look. We saw a lot of different things, different ideas, different approaches. Like I say, I will take David's PowerPoint. Tom is off. I think I've got a copy of Tom's zip file with his. If you'd like to share anything, Linda, I can do that. Ben has already given me an update on some issues with the website, which I have to go back to Access User Group support and see if I can get some of those ironed out.
It's the website.
I think it's still in some places using the WebEx link rather than the new Zoom link. And I had asked Hayden to clean that up, but apparently he hasn't got them all cleaned up yet. And there's some other things. So that's my task for tomorrow.
George, the WebEx link was in my Outlook that I already had saved.
Oh, so it was an
Oh.
older file. Okay, good.
Yeah, I hadn't realized that it changed, but then I couldn't find a link. Once I went to your page, the meeting that's going on right now is already expired, so it doesn't list it.
Oh,
I sent you a screenshot of it. It shows May's meeting. Next May at 6:30 a.m. is what it says.
6:30 a.m. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
April's
noticed
meeting was
that. I
probably
noticed
listed as
that on this
6:30
one, and I changed it, but apparently that's on all of them. Okay. Well, like I say, I've got a day's work cut out for me tomorrow, so I will get on that. There is also supposed to be a way to make downloads available, which I've never done yet. So now that I have a couple that I need to make available, I'll
Yeah,
invest some
I
time.
how to
in that.
do that. I guess maybe I would contribute as well if I knew how to do that.
Well, let me figure it out first. So I've got it under control, and then I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yes.
thanks again for everybody for participating tonight.